Welcome to a new episode of Essentials, the series where we try to understand the unrest in the West. Today we're going to dive deep into a fascinating topic, the psychology behind populism. The reason to explore this topic is because it is bizarre that someone like Donald Trump says the most ridiculous things, and still he has a good chance to become the next president of the USA. How can it be that you say that immigrants eat the cats and the dogs in Springfield, Ohio, and that people still take you serious? How can it be that you tell so many lies, and you offend many people, and you still are leading in some polls? The reason is probably that politics have not much to do with logic and arguments, but it is all about emotions. If you manage people's emotions, it doesn't matter what you say for the rest. But how do populist leaders manage to capture the hearts and minds of so many people? What psychological tools are they using? And why do their messages resonate so powerfully? In this video, we'll explore the core psychological themes using real-world examples from figures like Donald Trump, Geert Wilders, Viktor Orban, Marine Le Pen, and the Brexit movement. After watching this video, you know what to look for, and you will not be manipulated that easy anymore during their speeches. Our favourite is Trump, because he is the master of all of them. And take it from me, the ridiculous things he says deliberately. He knows exactly what he is doing. He does it on purpose. Let's get started. One of the first observations is that populist leaders thrive in times of fear and uncertainty. When people feel like the world around them is changing too quickly, whether because of economic instability, immigration, or cultural shifts, they look for strong leaders to protect them. Take Donald Trump's 2016 campaign, for example. Trump tapped into a lot of fears about immigration and national security. He famously promised to build a wall along the US-Mexico border, framing it as a way to stop illegal immigration and keep out drugs and crime. This message was clear and direct. The world feels chaotic, but I'll make it safe again. Populists offer simple solutions to these complex problems, which makes people feel like they can regain control. When we're scared or anxious, we're naturally drawn to leaders who promise to simplify the chaos and restore order. Another major tactic used by populists is creating an us versus them narrative. Populist leaders divide the world into two groups: the good, honest people, which they claim to represent, and the corrupt elites, or dangerous outsiders, who are supposedly threatening the nation. A perfect example of this is Dutch populist Geert Wilders. Wilders frequently talks about the dangers of immigration and the influence of Islam in Europe. He often frames Muslims as a threat to Dutch identity and values. By creating this clear division, us versus them, he gives people an easy answer to why they feel uneasy or frustrated. Populists provide a common enemy for people to blame. Whether it's immigrants, the political elite, or international organizations, this tactic simplifies the causes of complex social and economic issues. Now let's talk about another crucial psychological factor: identity and belonging. Populist leaders often appeal to people's desire to belong to a group, especially when they feel that their national or cultural identity is under threat. Marine Le Pen in France is a prime example. She talks a lot about defending Frenchness, the unique culture, language, and traditions of France, from what she sees as the negative effects of globalization and immigration. She frames immigration as a direct threat to French identity, which resonates with voters who feel like their way of life is being eroded. People have a deep need to belong to a group, especially one that feels familiar and safe. When populists speak about restoring national pride and protecting cultural values, they tap into this sense of belonging, which makes their message emotionally powerful. But it's not just about the message, it's also about the messenger. Many populist leaders have a larger-than-life personality. They speak with confidence, often using simple, direct language that cuts through the political jargon. The absolute master of this is Donald Trump. He even says openly that he is a genius and the greatest president since Lincoln. He comes from the entertainment industry with his own TV shows. He knows exactly how to play this game. Beyond charisma, there's also what I like to call the savior complex. Populists often frame themselves as the only ones capable of fixing the country's problems. They claim to be outsiders, uncorrupted by the political establishment, which makes people see them as their only hope. For example, during his presidency, Donald Trump constantly referred to himself as the one who would drain the swamp and bring back power to the people. This narrative made his supporters feel like he was their personal champion, fighting against a corrupt system on their behalf. Another powerful psychological tool used by populists is the promotion of conspiracy theories and misinformation. These leaders often suggest that there's a hidden agenda, something the elites don't want you to know. Trump's claim about the deep state working against him is a perfect example of this. By framing his opponents, including the media and political elites, as part of a shadowy conspiracy, Trump made his supporters distrust traditional sources of information. This created a stronger bond between him and his followers, as they began to see him as their only reliable source of truth. Conspiracy theories give people a sense of control in a world that feels out of their grasp. If they believe they're in the know, they feel empowered and more connected to the populist leader who's supposedly revealing these hidden truths. Another key strategy is how populists simplify complex issues. Whether it's immigration, economic inequality, or climate change, populists reduce these multi-layered problems to simple black and white solutions. Let's take Brexit, for example. The slogan, "Take back control," resonated deeply with many voters in the UK. It suggested that all the country's problems, economic, political, cultural, could be solved by leaving the European Union. This simplified narrative allowed people to believe that one single action would make everything better, even though the reality was far more complex. Populists thrive on reducing the complexities of modern life to simple terms, giving people the comfort of clear answers in a world that often feels confusing. Another psychological tactic often used by populists is portraying themselves and their followers as victims of a corrupt system. By creating a narrative of persecution, populists justify radical actions as necessary for self-defense. Marine Le Pen often claims that the French people are being victimized by global elites who prioritize multiculturalism over national identity. This persecution complex makes people feel like they're under attack, which justifies supporting a leader who promises to protect them, even if that leader uses extreme measures. When people see themselves as victims, they're more likely to support policies and leaders that offer a sense of protection and empowerment, even if it comes at the cost of democracy or ethical governance. Another powerful tool is the repetitive use of slogans and simple phrases. These slogans often boil down complex issues into catchy, memorable statements that can easily be spread through social media and rallies. Repetition cements these ideas in the minds of the public and creates a strong emotional connection. You know you have lost the elections in 2020, but by constantly repeating the lie, there remains always some doubt. If you long enough throw spaghetti against the wall, there will always remain some stuck to the wall. Finally, populists often frame the present moment as a crisis, an urgent situation that requires immediate, often extreme, action. This crisis narrative makes people more willing to bypass democratic norms or endorse authoritarian measures. Viktor Orban, in Hungary, for example, frequently describes the influx of refugees and migrants as an existential crisis for Hungary. This allows him to justify policies like building fences, restricting freedoms, and consolidating power, all in the name of national survival. Also here, Trump is the master. He states that if he does not get elected, we will have a great economic depression and World War III. When people are convinced they're in a crisis, they're more likely to accept drastic solutions that would otherwise seem too extreme. So, what can we learn from all this? Populists use a variety of psychological tools to connect with people, from stoking fear and creating enemies to presenting themselves as charismatic saviors. They tap into deep human emotions like fear, belonging, and the need for control in uncertain times. It appears that the psychological tools are more effective than arguments, logic, and ratio. Most people know that Trump lies and is a clown. Still, he is doing well in the polls. People obviously don't care about arguments. Other powers are stronger. By understanding the psychological strategies, we can better recognize when our emotions are being manipulated and when simple solutions are being offered for complex problems. The next time you watch a speech by Trump, Wilders, or Le Pen, just make a list of their psychological tools and check when they use it. You'll be amazed. Populism isn't just about politics, it's about how leaders connect with people on an emotional level, and that's why it can be so powerful. Thanks for watching this episode of Essentials. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the issues shaping our world. And remember, always stay critical in your thinking. Take nothing for granted. Hope to see you next time.